Huh?
I can't hear you. Lord have mercy on me.
I'm ready to be told, time for secrets to unfold. It's our time to come of age, time for truth to turn the page. Don't wanna be inside the dark, live within a question mark. Are they a friend or foe? Tell me now. We need to know. Need to know. We need to
The Extraordinary Phenomenon Investigations Council presents Epic Voyages. Come join us as we enter and experience the great mysteries of the world with tonight's host,
Kevin Cook.
You say too much to learn. You say cover up is fine. That's your plan, not mine. I'm ready to be told. Time for secrets to unfold. It's our time to come of age. Time for truth to turn the page. Don't wanna be inside the dark. Live within a question mark. Are they a friend or foe? Tell me now. We need to know. Need to know. Need to know.
Well, it's good to be with you. This is Kevin Cook, hosting the Epic Voyager show. Ken has let me guest host tonight. And we've got a good show tonight. We've got a 2012 special. Chet Sisk is on and Bill Gladstone in the second half. Chet will be on the whole show. But we're going to discuss 2012 and a lot of related issues. And before we do get into that, I might have a few news pieces first. On different shows, you've probably heard me talk about apparitions, since I wrote a book on Marian apparitions. And the Vatican says the final report on Medjugorje, the apparitional site in the former Yugoslavia, is still a long way off as far as the Cardinal Ruini's report. They were going to have a report that some French magazines had mentioned was going to come out shortly, but that's an error. They still got a lot of investigating to do, ostensibly. So that's an issue that might be in the current news. Now, Egypt's army gets temporary authority to arrest civilians. So unfortunately, the poor Egyptians are going from the frying pan into the fire, so to speak, and you do have to feel for them and really admire their courage, because they went up against the army with that Mubarak fellow, and now they're doing the same thing with the latest strongman. But like I say, you've got to really admire their courage in doing that. Understand they're throwing rocks at, at tanks and stuff, so that's pretty gutsy. And in the United Kingdom, they had a very bizarre phenomenon. A body basically fell out of the sky, and they can't identify who the poor guy is. Now, the likelihood is he was kicked out of a private plane or something, but that is a phenomenon that was on MSNBC. And they don't know who he is. Now, in a very, very strange development, which deals in a lot of the subject matter this show concerns, it's been rumored that Russian Premier Vladimir Putin has spilled the beans on alien contact, that is to say, acknowledging the validity of it. Now, I don't have a straight pipeline to Vlad, but it's been reported several places, and I hope he did. Anyhow, that's an interesting little news piece. And finally, in the newsy items tonight, Fox News has been caught manipulating a study of people driving under the influence of marijuana. Now, don't, think that I'm in favor of everybody just, knocking off a bunch of marijuana and going driving. However, they were caught manipulating the results. So that, and also this is just on the heels of a CNN reporter essentially admitting that CNN was paid by our federal government to carry some shows. Now, it'd be pretty gutsy for the reporter in the CNN case to be a whistleblower, if you will, because that could, be a career-ending development. But that is exactly what happened. So all kinds of skullduggery going on in the news department. And it's my negligence in not getting up with Ken Cherry as far as what your show is going to be on Epic Voyagers next week. I won't let that happen again. But filling that void, I can say tomorrow night, the 11th, at the same time on the same network, the Kevin Cook Show is going to have Ghosts of Gettysburg and also the Granbury Ghost Tours. So we're going to have a ghost special, if you will. And Gettysburg has been rumored to be the most haunted place in the country, or certainly one of them. And that's going to be on the 11th. On the 18th, on the Kevin Cook Show, Dr. John Alexander, who's also Colonel Alexander as well, he's a retired Green Beret colonel. He's going to talk on some military issues and UFO developments. And the 25th, on the Kevin Cook Show, there's going to be a replay of the Marian Apparitions show. So I thought that was appropriate for Christmas time. And then finally, on January 1st, Reverend Lionel Fanthorpe already has a pre-recorded interview Joe and I did with him a couple of days back, and that's going to be shown, or rather aired, January 1st. So we've got a lot of good things coming up on my show as well, and I don't want to usurp all this time for me, but I might draw your attention to www.kevincookshow.com, and certainly urge you to subscribe to it. And the show is free to listen to, like this one, live, but the archives are very minimal price, and you got complete use of that, and got a lot of interesting guests. Some other people don't. So anyway, that's my little tip, a little advertising for the day. And let's see, Chet, I guess you're on with us?
I am. Yes, I am.
Okay, I didn't mean to do all that advertising, but a fellow's got to advertise sometime. And
that's right. By the way, I think that was Medvedev that did that thing in Russia as opposed to Putin. Putin is kind of a, from what I understand, Medvedev came back and said every politician in Russia gets 2 files, or at least every premier or prime minister gets 2 files, one of the aliens that are here and one of the aliens that have come and just visited. So at least that's what I heard.
It could be, except I did read the little news piece caption I get from various little snippets, and it did have Vlad's name in there. But
okay.
I mean, because it said the Russian premier, and of course no, wait a minute, Vlad's president again, isn't he?
Right.
That's what it was. You're right, because I forgot the switch over. I said Russian premier, and I thought in terms of Vlad from having that job currently, but he did the switch back. You're right. Well, I stand corrected, and got the wrong Rusky official. But
they're all doing it. It's all the same thing over there. I mean, whatever the case, Putin is still running the show.
Oh, he always has. Yeah.
Right.
But no, this is a fascinating issue, and I know we've got 2012 to discuss, but and I might also, before we get into it, go ahead and indicate you're in leadership development with the United Nations, I guess.
Yes, I work with an organization called the World Assembly of Youth, and they are the United Nations formed that organization to develop leadership in emerging countries all around the world. And whenever I say that to someone, they say, "Oh man, you're working with those guys. We know what kind of leadership they're doing, what kind of leadership development they're doing." And I say, "No, it's not like that." And I've worked with this organization for the past 5 years, and I can tell you that the only thing that we're focused on is how to develop different kinds of leadership so that people won't repeat the same knucklehead mistakes that a lot of leaders are doing now. Once you get the knuckleheads out of the way, hopefully you got a better league of leaders that develop connectedness and intuition and insight and even love, using that as a kind of a way to be a better leader as opposed to the old school method. So, yeah, that's what I do. My whole job is to develop new forms of leadership.
Well, it sounds pretty good. Well, certainly you bring a positive twist to it. A lot of my guests are pretty grim. And I guess, hell, maybe I'm kind of grim, too. But you get to be kind of like it. But you know, it is nice to have a little positivism sometimes. But this UFO issue, before we get into 2012, it really is kind of fascinating. I guess just being an old investigator, I've always believed where there's smoke, there's fire. I mean,
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
After so many years.
Yeah, you know that there is something there. There have been so many. Remember the Canadian defense minister who came out and broke it down, and the French with the Cometa report, right? And all of the. So you know there's something going on. There have been enough nations, especially the Mexicans, who are pushing really hard to say, "Hey, listen, something's going on. Everybody knows it. Why don't we just kind of lay it out on the table?" So something is going on. It's just a matter of. People keep saying it's a matter of time, but I don't think it's a matter of time. I think it's just a matter of will. I really do.
Well, it could be. The best one I saw, and this has been not but a couple of years ago, I went to the only one and only time I went to the Roswell UFO Festival. They had a lady named Karen Dolan out there, who's Richard Dolan's wife, and she was a lot more interesting than Richard. And she had a slide, or rather a projection of some caves in France that had cave paintings, and there was an honest-to-goodness little George Jetson-y looking vehicle in the upper right-hand side, and in the foreground there were people tending cows or whatever, you know, people that 4,000 years ago did. But I swear, there was a little George Jetson-y looking vehicle in these Pyrenees Mountains cave paintings.
And that's where the cartoon came from, darn it.
Maybe. And I'm telling you, and not only that, but there's a painting in, I'm thinking it's Italy, and you know, it's one of the masters, you know, paintings, you know, classical paint.
Sure.
And they have the Madonna in the foreground, and in the background is a absolute, you know, garden variety issue flying saucer disc shape vehicle. And this has been in constant museum custody since the year 1500 something. And I mean, this is some bizarre stuff.
Yeah, it's out there. It's one of the things that, you know, I've realized over the years is it's not that information isn't hidden in plain sight. It's just that if you don't have the mind to see it, you won't see it. I always tell my students, or I'm a life coach too, and I always tell my clients that if you can't see it here, that is in your head, you won't see it with your eyes. There's something about our construct that will prevent us from being able to see even more obvious pieces of information. The evidence will be right in front of us, and we will swear up and down it doesn't exist. It happens all the time. I have that experience too. And I'm not trying to, push my Catholicism on you or anything. It's, you know, everybody just goes their own way. But what I'm saying is that the evidence for the Marian apparitions deal that I investigated is so strong. It's even stronger than the UFO business as far as, you know, articles that were examined by Sandia Labs, and they have an image on them, but there's no pigment, there's no tracing. I mean, there's no way to do this, you know. And also one, you know, without belaboring it, one apparitional event between 68 and 70, was probably the largest there's ever been, was viewed by perhaps 14 million people. And I mean, it's captured on television and on and on and on and on and on, 100 different things that would correlate it as being valid. And I tell people this, and it's like I'm talking, Vietnamese or something. They just tune it right out, just like, oh yeah, whatever, buddy. And like I'm the village idiot and just trying to, you know, promote Catholicism or something. And and the thing that they go ahead. I'm sorry. No, I was going to say that I have a theory about that, and it's in relationship also to 2012 is that there is a kind of in order for the current society or structure or world structure to continue on its course, it has to either demonize or ridicule anything that is inconsistent with linear thought.
Yeah.
If it does that, if all of a sudden you say, hey, this is what I saw, and 14 million people are witness to this, they will find a way to say, oh, it was swamp gas or something like that, and not necessarily to ridicule the people to make the people feel bad, but rather to uphold the position that the linear thought people have created in the world in order to maintain levels of power.
I believe that's true.
If you start to talk about things that are outside of their structure or control or thought process, it basically, they may interpret that as a challenge to their authority, because they would like to say, we